group our leaders say they're protecting. We love you so much, we're letting you die. That's the equity agenda. Too bad BLM never told us how it was going to end. Rafael Mangual knew. He's one of the wisest voices we know on crime and law enforcement. He's a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. He joins us tonight. Rafael, thanks so much for coming on. So the cause and effect, I know that criminology is complex, but this seems very clear. You stop enforcing the law against violence, you get a lot more violence.
I think that's exactly right. Look, if you look at the last decade plus in the United States, we have seen a systematic erosion of the criminal justice system at all levels. We've put more constraints on police. We've reduced our incarceration rates. We've made pretrial detention less likely, and we've entirely stopped enforcing whole categories of laws that certain elected DAs don't like. What that has done is it has systematically lowered the transaction costs of criminality, and it has raised the transaction costs of criminal enforcement. And what that's gotten us is a lot more crime. And I don't think it takes a genius or a criminologist or an economist to know that. I think it's quite obvious from what we're seeing. And as you pointed out, that danger is not evenly distributed, right? It is borne disproportionately by low-income minority communities in and around big cities that have gotten significantly less safe. So if you live in the South Bronx or on the west side of Chicago, your life is very, very different than if you live in Beverly Hills or in Greenwich, Connecticut. And what I think is happening is that a lot of so-called progressivists have convinced themselves that in order to be virtuous human beings, they have to support this decarceration agenda, this depolicing agenda, because that's what makes them a good person. And they never actually see what the results of that are, because they never would dare walk through these kinds of neighborhoods late at night where people have to live and see that kind of violence that you just showed. It's really, really disconcerting.
Neighborhoods where people pass a murder victim and just loot the body casually. Why don't the people who support the equity agenda as applied to law enforcement have to live in neighborhoods with people like that? Wouldn't that be a basic requirement? You should have to experience the effects of your policies.
Yeah, well, I think their ignorance is really what I think informs a lot of this. I really do try to see the best in people, and I do think that a lot of people who support the progressive prosecutor agenda, who support mass decarceration, who support defunding the police even, I think they think that they have good hearts and that they're doing the right thing. And I think that has a lot to do with the distance that's between them and the sort of violence that people are experiencing all too often.
I think you're exactly right. And I would say it's all about them. Everything is all about them. That's the promise. I appreciate your measured take on this. Rafael, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Kamala Harris is very busy. She's got a ton of jobs in the Biden administration. None of them have gone very well. First, she was in charge of securing the southern border.